A post on Facebook purporting to sum up, quote, our present situation. It goes on to make several assertions about Congress members, their families, and staff. We decided to verify whether any of the claims were true.
The post makes 4 claims, many of which have been floating around on social media for years. We'll take them one by one. First, the post claims that children and staff of congressional members are exempt from paying back student loans. We checked factcheck.org, a project of the Annenberg Public Policy Center at UPenn, and reached out to Congressman Steve Scalise's office, who referred us to the Congressional Institute website. Both say the claim is false. Children of congressional members are not exempt from paying back student loans, and neither are staffers. But some full-time staffers who stay on the job for years can take part in a student loan repayment program that has annual and lifetime caps. The second claim is Congress members can retire at full pay after only one term. FactCheck.org and the Congressional Institute say that's false, too. They're eligible for a pension after one term, but the amount depends on the years of service, the average of the highest 3 years of salary, and cannot exceed 80% of their final salary. The third claim is Congress members are exempt from any fear of prosecution for sexual harassment. That's just false. According to the Annenberg Public Policy Center, sexual harassment is specifically covered by Section 201 of the Congressional Accountability Act of 1994. And finally, there's the claim that Congress members have exempted themselves from health care reform. False. The Congressional Institute clearly states members of Congress are subject to the Affordable Care Act. In fact, they must use an Affordable Care Plan unless they get health care through a family member's plan or purchase one without the government contributing to its premiums. So bottom line, we cannot verify any of the claims in the post is true because each is false.
If you have something you want us to verify, just send it to us on social media or email us at verify@wwltv.com.